Hey everyone, last week I participated in the Wowie Jam 4.0. It is a jam in which you have around 4 days to make a game. Here's how it went. The jam started at 10 AM for me. The theme was also fairly interesting.
And the topic is collaborate with AI.
I immediately had an idea and decided to make an asteroids-like game where you fight against enemies and you have an ally which is an AI. One other idea popped into my head. The weapon you and your ally use would have bullets that bounce among nearest enemies and players. Therefore, you would have to collaborate with AI so that your bullets don't hit your ally and vice versa. I started by making the player move with W towards the mouse and some basic enemies that follow you around. These are all rectangles with the texture of a triangle. Next up were the asteroids and the game over screen. Asteroids are just SFML circle shapes, and yes, I know that isn't very well optimized, but it is a game jam after all, you don't have much time. It was not time to implement the whole gameplay loop where you would get to the game over screen and restart the game. The player has 5 lives at the start. Hitting an asteroid is an instant kill, while hitting an enemy reduces the life count by 1. If the life count is equal or less to 0, it is game over. The next step was adding the bullets, and after almost an hour, I am proud to present bullets, which work, kinda, not real. Bullet bounces were the next thing on my list. Once they hit an enemy, they would target the nearest object. This was fun and all, but it was quite annoying that you couldn't avoid eating your own bullets if you were just a tiny bit too close. That is when I got a different idea. What if, instead of you collaborating with an ally, you could collaborate with your weapon? It was much edgier since the chances of people not understanding how it fits the theme were much higher. It was much easier for me, however, not having to worry about making an actual AI who has to be decent, so I went with that idea. Still not sure if it was a terrible idea. Anyways, the bullets now target you only if you are the closest target and you are moving. This was everything for day 1 though. Day 2 was interesting, to say the least. The first thing added were the power-ups. They and asteroids were the only 2 things designed to prevent you from staying in one spot and not moving. I added 3 basic types of power-ups. There was an HP boost power-up, which increased your total HP by 2, extra bullet power-up, which added an extra bullet for you to use, and a speed power-up. A random power-up would spawn every 10 seconds. It was UI time. There isn't much to explain here, just text and some textures with it. Every bullet has its own reload time, so I added that as a text over bullets. You could own a maximum of 10 bullets, everything over that goes to waste, so I guess if you are unlucky you can get nothing but bullets for a long time. Next up was texturing time. I drew a texture for asteroids, which I was pretty proud of, and some shading over them, which is drawn as 2 circles. One has the texture of an asteroid, while the other has the shading texture. You can see that the asteroids look weird without any shading over them, so shading helps quite a lot. The asteroids also got a dark gray outline, since otherwise you wouldn't know their hitbox because they blend with the black background. Some of you know that I love messing with stats in games, and well, I think this speaks for its own. The last thing for day 2 was a simple main menu. I didn't have a name for the game yet, so it just says collaborate with AI for now. The game loop is finished and that was pretty much the end of day 2. It was time for sounds. For sounds, I'm using SFXR, a free sound effect generator. I didn't want to go too crazy with the sounds and make everything a mess. There are just some basic sounds for pretty much everything. That includes hovering over menu text, getting hit by an enemy or bullet, collecting a power-up, and so on. Some sounds were not good enough for my standards, so I changed them later on. The last thing I added for the day took a considerable amount of time. That is particles. My only way of making something look better. Player trail, bullet trail, enemy spawn, enemy kill, power up collect, and a few others. Just some polish to make the game look better. It took a few hours to get them right, but it was definitely worth it though. It was the last day and there were many things left to do. I started off by adding music to the game. I usually pick either something by Zizix or by Cursed Snake. I wanted the game to be more chill, so I picked Sunrays by Cursed Snake. Link in the description. One thing that was missing from the game is the background. Up to this point it was just solid black. Of course, you always want your game to look different, and to me a blockish background that changes the color based on music seemed like the way to go. It uses something similar to Perlin noise to get this nice gradient look. It was very static still, so it was animation time. Now, it is not easy to animate things by just writing C++ code, so I took the easy way out and made the background just scroll up and repeat when it gets to the top. Usually this would result in a weird seam on the part where the noise map repeats. Luckily for me, this noise I'm using is tileable and repeats seamlessly. Anyways, this didn't quite work how I wanted it to. The noise map is just moving up by 1 every half second. It was time for some math to make every tile smoothly switch between colors. And after a few minutes in Paint and a few more in Visual Studio, every tile was switching colors smoothly. There was one issue though. This whole process was taking about 6 milliseconds, which was way too much time for me. You may or may not know that for us to have 60 FPS, each frame has to last about 16 milliseconds. This background was taking almost half of that. I switched to release mode, which is usually faster, and I was surprised to see that from 6 milliseconds it went down to 0.005. Weird. After an hour of debugging, it turns out that for whatever reason, it locked to my VSync refresh rate. I didn't have time to look exactly why I was doing that, so I just accepted it and continued developing the game. The next thing on the list was so that the background changes color based on music. Well, how do I do that? A nice way of doing it would be to make some smart system that can tell when the mood of the music changes. There were less than 6 hours until the end of the jam, and that isn't nearly enough to make something as ambitious as that, so I hard-coded the values. It took only like 10 minutes and works flawlessly. That is, as long as you don't change the music that is playing. But considering that an average player of the game wouldn't do that, it works great. With the background out of the way, the game was pretty much done. The last few things I did before submitting were changing the asteroids texture to a more blockish look, adding a combo system, and adding a beam that connects a bullet with an enemy it is targeting. And that was it. I decided the game name would be Chain Reaction, and uploaded the game 2 hours before the deadline. So what did the people think of the game? Well, it is quite sad that I expected a few of these complaints, but oh well. The game controls with W and S, which move the player towards your mouse or away from your mouse. I completely understand that it is not very intuitive, however it was made like this on purpose, since W, A, S and D give you a total of 8 possible angles to move in, while this makes it completely 360 degrees. Another common-ish complaint was it wasn't on topic. Again, completely understand. I took the easy way out and avoided programming an AI that would play with you. These were the complaints I sort of expected. The one I didn't expect was that the difficulty ramps up very slowly. I guess I could add a hard mode in the next update for the game. By the time of recording this, the rating period has ended and my game is overall in the top 21% of Jam games. The simplicity category is my highest ranked one in around the top 5% of Jam games. And well, that's it, at least for this Jam. If you want to play Chain Reaction, there will be a link in the description. If you want to play my other games like Cookies 2, there will be also a link for that. Also, the code of this game is available on GitHub, a link in the description. Other than that, thank you for watching and until the next one.